So, welcome to this first video on how dogs think and learn. In all honesty, there's not much difference between how other animals and people learn. The main difference being that, of course, you can explain things to people, not so much other animals, including dogs. Despite what we think and hope and wish for, they do not understand every word we say to them. So what we need to do to ensure long-term success with our dog training is to understand the principles behind the way dogs actually learn. This framework for success is built about understanding the mechanisms, for want of a better word, of classical conditioning, operant conditioning and three-term contingency. These things are clearly linked and often seem much of a muchness, especially when you're actually training your dog. But they are distinct and separate mechanisms by which the dogs learn, and having a good understanding of how these things all work and interact with each other will build good solid foundations for your dog training. Come on, kids. In the late 1800s, Russian scientist Ivan Pavlov observed his dogs salivating when he offered them food. He then paired the offering of food with the sound of a bell. After a while, the dogs would salivate at the sound of the bell. What he noticed was that for this to work most effectively when pairing the bell and the food, the sound of the bell had to be about a second before the food was offered, causing the dogs to salivate. The sound of the bell would predict the food and thus stimulate the salivation. Eventually, the bell would cause the salivation on its own. A previously neutral stimuli had been conditioned to stimulate a physiological response from the dogs, and this is the crux of classical conditioning. Sit. Classical conditioning is an unconscious learning process, an automated learning mechanism, if you like, where we can create a conditioned response through the association of an unconditioned stimulus and a previously neutral stimulus.